Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the November 19th regular Medicine Hat Police Commission meeting. And welcome to those joining us online. My name is Paul Carolyn. I am the chair of the Medicine Hat Police Commission. I will open this evening with a land acknowledgement. The Medicine Hat Police Service and its Police Commission honor and acknowledge that we are situated on Treaty 7 and Treaty 4 territory, the traditional lands of the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, Stoney Nakoda, and Tsuut'ina, as well as the Cree, Sioux, and Saulteaux bands of the Ojibwe people. We also acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Métis Nation. This evening we have a special ceremony. I'll invite Deputy Chief Sani to help us swear in our new council members.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, Chair. Councillor Cox, if you don't mind coming up here, we can get you sworn in. Copy the Bible. I'm just going to ask you to read this out aloud, and
Okay.
we'll get you to sign that after.
I, Bill Cox, swear that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability, execute according to law the office of a member of the Medicine Hat, Alberta Police Commission, and will not, except in the discharge of my duties, disclose to any person any matter or evidence brought before me as a member of the Medicine Hat, Alberta Police Commission. So help me God.
Thank you. Just get you to sign right here, sir. Okay. I'll take the Bible. Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fast. Counselor, okay. I already beat you to the punch. Just get the same thing, Counselor, if I can get you to read that out. And
I, Ted Cluxon, swear that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability execute according to the law the office of a member of the Medicine Hat Police Commission, and will not, except in the discharge of my duties, disclose to any person any matter or evidence brought before me as a member of the Medicine Hat Police Commission. So help me God.
awesome. Just get you to sign right there, sir. Right here? No, right here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Please join me in welcoming Councillors Cox and Councillors Clugston to the Medicine Hat Police Commission. With that, we will move on to the conflict of interest. I would now ask any commission member present to advise the chair if they have any perceived or known conflicts of interest related to any items listed on today's agenda. Any declared conflicts will be noted in the minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. It is circulated in your pre-meeting package. Our council members have just received it in writing. Have a motion to accept or amend the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. So Commissioner Sir, and okay to a second? Vice Chair Keen? Thank you. Anybody abstained? Opposed? The agenda is approved as circulated. We did have minutes circulated as a part of your pre-meeting package as well from October 15th. Motion to approve or amend as circulated. Commissioner Thorson, thank you. A second. Commissioner Robles, thank you. Any amendments or additions, deletions from the minutes as circulated? Seeing none, is there anybody abstained? Opposed? The minutes are approved as circulated. With that, we'll move on to our presentation for this month, and I'll ask Deputy Chief Sani to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. Today we have a presentation. The Family Crime Unit of our Medicine Hat Police Service is going to be providing the presentation. They handle some of our most sensitive and complex investigations related to children and families. Their work is demanding. It requires exceptional communication, as well as careful problem solving, the ability to use trauma-informed approaches in solving these issues, supporting families and navigating through these challenges. Today we have Sergeant Daryl Hubick and Constable Jason Dola here, as well as Glory. They're going to provide a quick presentation in regards to the Family Crime Unit of the Medicine Hat Police Service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief, members of the Commission. Thanks for the opportunity tonight. I'm going to start with just a kind of an overview of our unit, our current manpower, if you will. This is it. So you have myself, Jason Dola, our facility dog, Glory. I jest a little bit. We also have victims' assistants with us as well. They have a second facility dog that we will utilize on occasion as well. That's Athena. Within the purview of family crime, we also oversee the Safe Family Intervention Team, which deals with domestic violence files, and they do a lot of risk assessing in that area. We basically, myself and Jason, are the lone investigators. We're both child forensic interview certified. I'll explain a little bit of that as we go on through the presentation. But basically, our job is to provide a trauma-informed platform for children to disclose things that they've witnessed or things that they've been unfortunately victimized in. I'll let Jason take over here for a second to explain the usefulness of the facility dogs.
So as Sergeant Hubick had stated, we utilize Athena and Glory. Glory's here. How you see her now is usually how she's sitting in an interview. Very highly trained. They come to us from Dogs with Wings, assistance dogs based out of Edmonton. They're ADI certified, so basically the gold standard for all service dogs and disability dogs. Excuse me. We get the dogs, usually, Glory came to us at 2.5 years old, so right from 8 weeks up to 2.5 when they're placed with the facility, they're in training. Puppy stage, adult training, and then we go up to Edmonton and have a specialized 1-week course as the primary handlers. Glory's role in the interview, or the CFI process, and with the victim's assistance, her and Athena, is to provide comfort for the victim. And there's nothing more powerful than speaking with a child, introducing yourself, saying what you do, who you are, and then you bring the dog into the room, and you just see that sense of calm come over the child. And it's evident in our interviews. When I first got into the unit, I didn't have Glory, never used Athena or Mulder, our first facility dog, and I was like, okay, what's the difference? Is a dog going to make in an interview? And the first interview I had, Mulder, blew me away. Just how the child opened up, got comfortable with Mulder, and basically told me what happened to them. So they're reliving their trauma. The dogs are there taking that trauma, not taking it from them, but comforting them as they're telling us. And it's, again, powerful when you see a child, they're getting close to a disclosure and they lean in and they start petting and they start playing with the ears of the dogs. And these dogs are trained that they will sit there and take it. Not take it, that's what they're trained to do, but they are supporting them in the best way that they can. So they're invaluable. We're lucky to have 2 of them, and they're used daily. So they're very worthwhile for us.
Yeah, and just I guess for those new in the room and that haven't met myself or Jason, I'm pretty lucky to have Jason as Glory's handler as well, because he was a canine officer for several years and had 2 different canine dogs. So he is head and shoulders above me in the training of Glory. She identifies really well with Jason. He really picks up on her signals, and so we kind of play off each other. If I'm monitoring Jason's interview, I give him feedback. He can pick up on things that he sees with Glory as well and provide me that feedback kind of in real time when we're doing interviews. So within the family crime unit, I explained there's us, we have victims assistants or victim navigation specialist. We usually bring them on board whenever we're involved in a file right at the front end to provide some initial support, explain the process, kind of just start building rapport before Jason and I come in. The only real change that we've had within our unit over the last couple of years now is Medicine Hat was extremely fortunate. I think we were the last in the province to have an embedded child and family service worker within our building. Unfortunately, the ministry realized that we were the last ones and reallocated that position. But because we were fortunate enough to build those relationships over the last 10 years, maybe 12 years, we had the same worker in our building. We're still able to utilize that relationship and kind of leverage it to information share and assist within our unit and vice versa. The manager that left utilizes us, we information share, we have an agreement within the service that allows us to do that in the best interest of the safety of children. So we're really lucky that way. Yeah.
Just to back up with Glory and Athena, the other important role that they do is once they've met a child victim, they follow that child through the court process. So from at the beginning when we meet with VA to the interview, and then if we get to court and child has to testify, the dogs have been accepted into the courts and they're allowed to take the stand, lay under their feet or at their feet and support them during that. So it gives the child that little bit more comfort of somebody's up there with them.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jason. That's an important role as well. It basically kind of completes that whole wraparound service that victims get within MHPS. When they come in, obviously, the files that we deal with are extremely traumatic usually. So building that rapport and having the stability of, recognizing the dog and things like that go a long way, because nothing within the courts happens overnight. They can be very long, drawn-out processes, and we want to limit the exposure of trauma and things like that to the children that we interview. So, and actually sometimes we'll have an adult that will use the dogs as well for different files. So, for those that aren't familiar with what our unit does, on the slide in front of you, just as some of our responsibilities. So basically, we investigate any allegations of any serious physical or sexual abuse against children. We also conduct, when required, child forensic interviews for any units within Medicine Hat Police Service. Oftentimes, we're tasked with doing those interviews for the RCMP or other municipal agencies throughout Canada. Sometimes we also get involved with files out of the United States for the same purpose. Elder abuse files, thankfully, we don't have a large proportion of those, but when they do come in, that falls under our mandate as well. Jason manages all our sex offender registry compliance, people that are registered sex offenders in Medicine Hat, so that falls under us. I currently sit on the Alberta Sexual Assault or Sexual Violence Police Advisory Committee. Whoever's within our team, we have to have one member on there. It allows us to collaborate with other agencies, government within Alberta when there's laws changing around sexual violence and offenses against children. So it gives us a voice provincially. As well, we're both part of the multidisciplinary team, okay? What that is we involve the Sonari Child Youth Advocacy Center in Medicine Hat, Alberta Mental Health and Addictions, Child and Family Services, the RCMP. Am I forgetting anybody? I think that's it. And in addition to those, myself and Jason, our bigger umbrella above family crime is the criminal investigation section. So we're also involved in serious offenses outside of family crime. Your aggravated assaults, armed robberies, homicides, things like that do pop up periodically. So we're part of that team as well. So you probably heard me mention child forensic interviewing a few times. As I said, Jason and I are both trained in that. We're certified in both basic child forensic interviewing and advanced child forensic interviewing. Each of those designations was a 40-hour training course. Basically, it builds on rapport. That's a theme of our interviews. Obviously, we've all heard stories of police being intimidating to certain segments of the population. Kids, depending on how they were raised, different environmental factors, sometimes that's amplified even more. So we really work to build on rapport. CFIs are basically structured, they're developmentally appropriate given the age and cognition levels of children. And it's done in a trauma-informed, more of a conversation. It's not a traditional interview that you would see or anticipate police having. We have a very comfortable interview space. We try and make them as comfortable as possible. There's a couch, pillows. The dog sits probably 9 times out of 10 will sit right on the lap or right next to the child on the couch. We wear plain clothes. We try and bring ourselves down and make ourselves more approachable to these vulnerable people that come in. The reason we do CFIs is basically it's a standard that's accepted by courts. We don't want to expose anybody to any more trauma than they've already gone through. They've already been through an experience that has brought them to the police, and we want to minimize the impact that we'll have on that. Prior to CFIs, I guess the programs being developed, there were basically 2 incidents that happened. One very high profile, one in the US in the 80s. And if anybody remembers Martinsville in Saskatchewan in the 90s, basically policing is always evolving and learning from past mistakes. And there were very big mistakes made in both of those incidents where parents were involved and told, go ask your kids about this, right? So they're asking direct leading questions, things like that, that then allowed offenders, to not be found guilty and held accountable later on when it came to court. This avoids that. It also avoids re-victimizing children by putting them on the stand in most cases. In most cases, a CFI, if it's accepted by the courts, will just be played in court, and then it will save the victim from having to go on the stand because all the information is laid out in a way that's accepted by the Crown and defense, and that's the goal. As children become youth, a little bit older, sometimes there's still that possibility, but again, that's where we do the court prep and things like that. So, do you have anything to add on that?
If you picture when you're watching the old movies and they pull out the doll and say, "Where did he touch me?" We don't do that anymore. It's not accepted. And then, as Daryl had stated, if we do our job right and that statement is accepted, that child doesn't have to retell what happened to them. At most, they might have to take the stand or appear by CCTV to be cross-examined.
And he says old movies, but that was the way I was first trained in interviewing 13 or 14 years ago with children. And we had them draw, it wasn't quite dolls, but we had them draw where the bad touches were and things like that. We don't do that anymore. So again, we're just always evolving. So I mentioned the Sonari Child and Youth Advocacy Center, so that's within the Sexual Assault Center located in Medicine Hat. We work very closely with several community groups. Like I mentioned, we're all part of the MDT. We collaborate, we meet virtually now once a week. We discuss files, we carry on that wraparound support. Sometimes, we provide information if clients have moved, contact information, things like that, so that the Crown and everybody is prepared for when that file moves forward into court. And sometimes files don't end up in charges, they don't go to court. The Advocacy Center can provide counseling and other supports through their agency in there. I threw some stats up here. I don't know if it interests anybody. Sometimes it does. So in 2024, Jason and I investigated 81 files. We did 62 child forensic interviews. We did 52 other witness interviews as part of those investigations. And at the conclusion of those investigations, 40 criminal code charges ended up being laid within 2024. I think we're about on par for that this year. Our numbers, thankfully, don't seem to have too many peaks and valleys. They're fairly constant. I mean, obviously, we all work together to try and get that number down. But the nice thing is that we haven't had any spikes recently. We're usually in that 80 to 100 files a year range. This slide just shows a bit of the workflow that we follow. Oftentimes people ask, well, how do you get files in your unit? Usually they come in through a multitude of ways. Either a patrol member ends up with a call for service, somebody calls 911, or non-emergency line, the member gets there, they realize that there's a child that needs interviewing, whether they're at risk, or they've been victimized, or they witnessed something. School resource officers, we work very closely with them. A lot of times the information they get in the schools leads to our files as well. Child and Family Services, although they have a slightly different mandate, we can all agree, I'm sure, that our global view is we're just all responsible for the safety of kids. So a lot of times their investigations will start off as maybe a neglect type issue, and it may lead to something that shows some criminality, and then we will get involved that way as well. So once the initial information is obtained, there'll be basically what we call a general occurrence report submitted, people involved will be added. That file will get routed to myself, and we'll determine what next steps need to happen investigatively, and then I will assign it to either myself or Jason to investigate. We'll schedule a child forensic interview. We may tap into other resources within the service investigatively. We will also triage the file through that MDT, that multidisciplinary team that we talked about. And it's a process where we basically will introduce the child victim to the Child Youth Advocacy Center so that they can follow up with supports. If Child and Family Services isn't already aware of the file, they'll become aware that way. Alberta Mental Health and Addictions can provide some information maybe as far as health concerns, difficulties we may have prior to a child forensic interview, cognition levels, things like that that might, we may have to plan for slightly different than a standard child forensic interview. And then basically from there, we'll wrap up the file. We'll determine if there's charges or not. If there's charges, it'll usually go to pre-charge assessment, depending on the circumstances, which is the norm for most of our files these days. Anything else, Jay? No? So just to give you some perspective, this slide is, I can't talk in great detail because it's still before the courts, but this just kind of shows you a workflow of something that we've dealt with in the last year, where a teacher contacted a school resource officer, said they had some concerns. The SRO reaches out to the child, gets a nuts and bolts. It's not an interview. I'll be clear. They just say, hey, how's it going today? Anything going on in your life? If they receive a disclosure, which is what happened in this case, they put that file together, sent it to us. We organized forensic interviews. From those interviews, we were able to identify a couple of suspects and as well as several other witnesses. There were some search warrants, production orders that ended up being drafted and executed, along with patrols and school resource officers with this file. Both male suspects were later arrested. Matter, like I said, is before the courts, but it resulted in 9 criminal charges against 2 adult males. And the trials are pending in 2026. So that kind of just shows you some of the involvement. And I believe from that initial concern from the parent to the resolution with the 2 suspects being charged was about 3 weeks, give or take. And then there was some follow-up with production orders and things like that, evidentiary-wise. But yeah, so that's basically how we get involved in those files routinely. And there, I'll finish the slideshow with the 3 stars of the show, which the middle one is Mulder. That was our first facility dog that Medicine Hat Police Service had. You can tell he's a little gray in the scruff there. He's the oldest one. He's retired for 2 years now. Coming up 2 years. And then we have Glory on the left. This is a test for me. And Athena on the right. Okay, good. So any questions from anybody? I'll open up the floor if anybody has anything, or you want to add something, Jason?
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions? Commissioner Thorson? Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. Your work is difficult, to say the least. I'm just kind of curious as to, you showed the files, how many you had over the course of the year and the interviews. I'm just curious about your own personal self-care doing all this. How do you take care of yourselves?
That's a good question. Well, we do have a lot of programs through the Medicine Hat Police Service and through the Medicine Hat Police Association that we both can access very quickly if we need it. The one nice thing about having a small unit like ours is Jason and I have worked together for 18 years. So we will talk about files, we'll, discuss the bad ones, the results of some of the good files that we have where kids are protected. We both have very supportive families at home, which is also really good. But yeah, we routinely will check in with each other and just, we have a very welcoming office too. We're fortunate that way, where we can just sit down and kind of exhale a little bit after an interview and discuss how things went. And sometimes we realize we just gotta, pump the brakes a little bit on certain things and just take some time and yeah, and he coaches a lot of hockey, gets him out and clears his head. And I used to run until I got broken. Right, Jason? So, but yeah, lots of physical activity and just looking out for each other. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Commissioner Johnson?
2 questions for you. Number 1, you said that it sounded like you had a provincial employee that was also part of your unit. Am I taking that right?
Yeah, through Child and Family Services.
Okay, and what happened to that person? What happened to that position? And is it needed, and what do we have, if it is needed, what do we have to do to get it back? That's my first question.
Well, there was definitely a learning curve when we lost position. So to answer your first question, I don't believe, it was definitely not a decision made internally through us. It was a decision made by the ministry with Child and Family Services. They just had to reallocate positions. But I think based on our previous relationship, the only thing now, after our learning curve of 6 or 8 months and figuring this out, is the only thing that's really changed is we have a lot more conversations now and emails instead of the face-to-face meetings. But we are extremely fortunate that person, she's still based in Medicine Hat. So she's very, very accessible. Within the last maybe 3 months, we've come up with a plan too where she usually represents Child and Family Services with our MDT meetings that we have once a week. And so to piggyback off of those, now we've kind of created a space when we can all get together, but on that same day where we follow up just as Child and Family Services and Family Crime and discuss our matters, just the two of us, and update ourselves and bounce ideas off each other, give each other heads up about things that are on the horizon maybe. So we still have a very good relationship. It's just different. We're not having the face-to-face. We can't pop in on, into each other's offices as readily. So we've just now scheduled meetings, but we're all very available to each other all the time.
Second question. You indicated that you do have some files that are basically assisting another agency. If it's another agency within southeastern Alberta, could it be assumed that they don't have someone with the training that you have in order to do that interview? Would that be fair to say?
I would say most municipal agencies that I'm aware of in Western Canada now have child forensic interviewers. Where we assist a lot of times is we want to save the burden. If somebody, let's say an offense, a historical offense occurred in Edmonton, right? Edmonton Police might get that file, but to avoid having a victim, and because most of our victims are children, and a parent, and up and have to drive to Edmonton to do an interview, things like that, we will do that, and then we'll share the information from those interviews. We'll summarize it. We'll send everything that they need, and a lot of times we are assisting more rural policing agencies that may not have people that are trained as CFI interviewers, including the RCMP a lot. Redcliffe now has a couple of CFI trained interviewers as well, but as you may or may not be aware, they cover a huge area as well. So a lot of times they'll ask us if we can do or assist them with a CFI. And if they have a CFI investigator, they still might want one of us to monitor and assist them that way, right, to provide that feedback during the process.
When we assist those organizations, is there a bill? Or am I asking the wrong person?
You're asking the wrong person.
Fair enough.
Can I just?
Yep.
On the flip side, though, too, we will send files to Edmonton and Lethbridge and request the same. So it's reciprocal that they'll do it for us, we do it for them.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair. I don't anticipate that there's any financial burden. It's just kind of what we do. Policing is generally a pretty tight family, regardless of if it's Medicine Hat or Alberta or Canada, right? So we'll help each other out. So, and Jason's right. There's times where people have moved on from Medicine Hat, but the offense occurred here, so it's our file, and we'll reach out. So, thanks for that.
Just to answer your question there, Commissioner Johnson, yeah, it's more or less just an in-kind, because just like Jason Darrell pointed out, it's usually is reciprocated at some point down the road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cox. Yes, please.
So I was interested in the self-care piece as well, but I question first, not all children like dogs. Is there a preliminary exploration before you bring the dog into the room? Because some children react quite negatively towards large canines.
Yeah, we do. I'll let Jason speak to most of it.
Yes, so the dog's never forced on anyone. The dog is offered. They are aware. Usually the parents are advised, spoken to either by myself or Daryl or victims' assistants beforehand. We tell them about the dogs. We tell them what they're capable of, and the decision is up to them. And absolutely, we've had cultural issues where they're not comfortable with dogs. We've had some older kids, like early teens, that didn't want dogs to support them. So they're never forced. It's always an option.
Okay. And then, before I get to my next question, just, which relates to the self-care piece, I'll just contribute some of my own experience as a Crown prosecutor, starting in the Provincial Crown's office. Sexual assault cases were far too many, and they are very stressful. I found them that way. I recall one in particular that ended up on the appeal of, the accused appealed his conviction, which was upheld. And it was a mistake for him to do that because in return, the Crown appealed his sentence. And it was a particularly egregious case, and the Court of Appeal increased the sentence significantly. It was the Stoner case. I don't even know if it's relevant anymore, but R.V. Stoner, it ended up being 7 years for sexual assault of 2 stepchildren, a boy and a girl. And that sent what the court at that time established as the benchmark for serious aggravated sexual assault cases. And in any event, it was an interesting case. I think I could have perhaps used a dog as we prepared the witnesses for court. It was a very egregious case, and I recall having to travel to Calgary to meet the young witnesses who were at that point living with their father and stepmother, but when the offense occurred, they were living with their mother and stepfather, the accused, in Brooks. The little boy wouldn't even come down to talk to me. I visited him in his parents' home, and he wouldn't come down to talk to me. And I thought, this is not going well, but before I left, he'd drawn a picture and he sent it down. I can't remember what the picture was of now, but it was just his little way of introducing himself. And I said, well, do you want me to go upstairs and we'll talk in his room upstairs? And he was already coming down the stairs and was ready to talk to me. And just as another little aside on that case, I remember too well, those were the early days of screening where you could get your witness screened so they didn't have to look at the accused. And I thought we were going to need that in this case, and I applied for it at the preliminary inquiry in Brooks. And the judge said, no, we're going to hear from the witness without screening. And if we need it, then you can reapply to have a screen brought in. And I thought, by then it'll be too late, but if that's your ruling, I don't have any other choice. The little guy was so angry at his stepfather that he just marched up on the stand, and he didn't care whether there was a screen or a wall or nothing. He pointed the finger and said what he had to say. All of this leading to the point I want to ask you. So then I got into other kinds of criminal work and ended up defending a few of these people on occasion. Didn't like that very much. Got to a point where I wouldn't do that kind of work anymore. Do you look forward to a day when investigating family violence may be a part of history and you can go back to being a cop and solving a good old-fashioned armed robbery or something?
Yeah, I mean, it is challenging, there's no question. Your story about the little witness, though, kind of struck a chord because oftentimes, like Jason and I, when we interview children, we'll tell them this is their time to tell us their story. And we find that the more times they get more confident as that process goes on. So, but the first step in that is opening up to an adult. And sometimes they haven't done that when we meet them. And it's really rewarding, I guess, to see how much maybe they've evolved in their strength and things like that as they've come from the first time we see them to maybe 18 months later when they're on the witness stand, if they have to go there, or we're meeting them and prepping them for court. So yeah, to answer the last part of that question, we both got into police work, maybe not looking at this as an avenue, but we both really have a passion for it now, and we know the benefit that it has for the community and for victims in the city. So we're both fathers, so we realize that the emotion involved with these families when a child is offended against is real, and we see that. So
The one way I like to look at it is we can't change what happened, but we're there to listen, and we're the first steps in the healing. And there's nothing more powerful than when we follow up or speak with a family after a court case or 2 months down the road, and the parents turn and say, I've got my son, I've got my daughter back. They're back to how they were before this happened. So I look at that. To answer your question, I'd sooner be involved in what we're doing right now than solve an armed robbery, because the impact it has on these kids. And we have children that will still come to the police station years later, before I was even in the unit, that will still come back to talk with VA, to see the dogs and things like that. So the impact that all these players have made is so powerful. So I take this position over going back and doing an armed robbery any day.
Well, thank you, Sergeant Hubick and Constable Dola, for your presentation on behalf of the commission. I certainly see the passion that you bring to this responsibility. I can't imagine what your days are, even with the positive relationships you have. So on behalf of the commission, thank you for your service. Do you see anything in closing?
I just want to thank Daryl, Jason, and Glory for attending today's meeting and providing us this insight in regards to what our family crimes unit does. And as you can see, it's Jason and Daryl that make this unit. Their work, their passion, and their commitment to building those relationships. The two of them have definitely a profound impact in our community and the investigations that they do handle. So thank you very much.
thanks again.
And thank you, commissioners, councilors, for your comments and questions on that. With that, we're moving on to standing items. Chief Murphy sent his regrets. He is otherwise involved this week, and so the police budget will be the deputy chief.
Thank you, Chair. In regards to the budget, we're currently projecting a small positive variance, and we expect to have a very small negative variance by the end of the year. We'll keep you updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. The AAPG report. Commissioner Johnson.
So, the AAPG was supposed to have a meeting with the ADM on the 3rd of November. Unfortunately, as soon as the meeting started, they got a fire alarm and in his building, and the whole meeting was canceled. But it is going to happen this Friday on video. So we had to submit questions for the ADM, and I submitted 3. The first question was, would there be a possibility and an explanation from the government as to why there seems to be so many resources going to CPS and EPS when it comes to things like downtown crime, and patrolling the homeless. It seems to be a CPS, EPS show, and none of that seems to filter down to the mid-size services. My second question was whether the department or the government has done any research into how AI will change the landscape of policing in Alberta within the next foreseeable future. My third question that I submitted was a situation report on the Alberta Sheriff's Police Service with regards to many of the members of the AAPG may be wanting to use that service as a consumer, while others may view it as a competitor. This was, of course, before Bill 4 was introduced, that I had to submit this, and I'm sure they'll refer this just to Bill 4. So anyway, those are the questions, and I will hopefully be giving you the results of them at our next meeting. The only other thing that came up is the conference in Tabor. The early bird registration will be $300 per member. And I encourage all of you to, especially that it's so close, it's in Tabor, to take advantage of that in the spring. Any other questions?
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Any questions for our Alberta Association of Police Governance representative? Commissioner Johnson, if you could just remind us to revisit the annual conference in at the January meeting so we can plan and schedule accordingly.
I will, thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the Office of the Chief report. Operational Services Report, Inspector Graham.
Thank you, Chair Carolyn. Good evening, Commission members. This evening, I'm going to highlight 3 incidents that occurred in the month of October. I'll have you turn your attention to page 15 of your package. First incident I'm going to speak about is a matter that occurred on September 30th. Approximately 4:30 p.m., members of the Medicine Hat Police Service responded to a suspicious package located in the 300 block of South Railway Street. The package had been found in a garbage bin, and interestingly enough, it was wrapped in bags, tied with cords, and had an audible ticking sound to it. So the immediate area was cordoned off, and we had called in our explosive disposal unit to investigate. After a period of time, the package was x-rayed, and it was determined not to be a risk to the public and removed from the bin. I highlight this incident because it speaks to some of the expertise that we have in-house with our EDU unit and the specialized training that they have. We were able to respond quickly and promptly to that with minimal disruption to the community. Second event that I want to speak about occurred on October 20th at approximately 1:25 in the morning. A resident in Stapleford Crescent Southeast reported that their vehicle had been stolen. So our patrol officers were notified and responded promptly to the area. After receiving the complaint, the stolen vehicle was found on Cox Way Southeast with 2 individuals in close proximity. When the officers activated their emergency lights, both these individuals ran from the scene on foot, but were quickly apprehended and taken into custody by the members on scene. Officers recovered cash, various bank cards, and weapons. Resulting in this investigation, a 34-year-old male and a 29-year-old female, both from Medicine Hat, were charged with resisting arrest, possession of stolen property, and theft of the motor vehicle. Additionally, the male was charged with carrying a concealed weapon, possession of a prohibited weapon, possession of a controlled substance, 2 counts of that, and breaching of firearms prohibition. And finally, I want to speak about an incident that occurred on October 24th at approximately 5:30 a.m. Again, patrol officers conducted a traffic stop on a suspicious vehicle in the 500 block of 10th Street Southeast. The occupant was found to be in violation of a court-imposed 24-hour curfew. He was arrested for breaching these conditions. A subsequent search of the vehicle resulted in the seizure of a GSG semi-automatic .22 caliber rifle and a controlled substance. A 24-year-old male from Medicine Hat was charged with multiple firearms-related offenses as a result of this. That's the end of my report. I'm glad to take any questions.
Any questions for Inspector Graham? Seeing none, we'll move on to Investigative and Support Services, Inspector West.
Thank you. I'll just start off on page 19 in our Major Crimes Unit. So in October, the Major Crimes Unit concluded an investigation that involved a shooting during a home invasion. So both subjects, the victim and the accused, were known to each other. The victim sustained a single gunshot wound, not critically injured, and the suspect then fled. So given the sort of types of folks we were dealing with here, well known to police, it was a difficult investigation. There was no real witnesses to rely on. However, the Major Crimes Unit dug into that one and did end up making an arrest and charging the accused appropriately, and the investigation is continuing given there was another incident that we think that subject was related to. So sort of an ongoing investigation, but charges have been laid in that one to date. And then moving over to page 20, in mid-2025, the Medicine Hat Alert Team initiated a short-term drug investigation, so back in June, focusing on some local residents. And I've talked about these files before. I love it when our officers are able to dig into a local file with local impact. So this one involved suspected production, as it turned out. So we did, what's unique about this one is we did call in the RCMP Clandestine Lab Enforcement Response Team, the CLEAR team, to make sure that we entered that environment safely. As it turns out, there wasn't the level of production that we thought there was, but there was some manipulation of the drugs that were produced there, coloring some fentanyl pills and so forth. So not a traditional, what you think of as a clandestine lab, but certainly we're glad to have the help of the CLEAR team. However, in this file, if you turn to page 21, you'll see the potpourri of drugs that were seized, including almost 600 grams of fentanyl. So, you were talking over a half kilo of fentanyl, 102 grams of methamphetamine, 85 grams of cocaine, 47 grams of psilocybin, and 21 grams of GHB. So the whole spectrum of drugs with a grand total of $135,000 were seized. So just a great file with great local impact. And just looking down towards the training unit. So in October, thanks to Deputy Chief Saini, we had the Canadian Police College and some contacts that he had out on the West Coast come and teach the scribe course. So this is an important part of our incident command. So when we have incidents of scale, barricaded gunmen and so forth, sort of the things you see on the news, and we strike up our incident command system, we've had sort of an ad hoc system for the scribes, so the people who record the decisions, create the timelines and those types of things. So we were able to get 7 of our people in-house trained, which is great. So we've got some great depth there, and it's a difficult course. So our ladies, most of them from our information management section, stepped up into that course. It was 40 hours, very intensive, but they fought through it and earned a certificate. It's definitely not a gimme. So we're really glad as we sort of strengthen our incident command system to have that depth with those scribes, and hats off to the ladies who stepped up into that course. And just a bit of an update on our firearms transition. So as of, I think this week, we've got about half the officers trained. This was a huge undertaking on the part of the service to transition to the 9mm platforms with the red dot sights and the underbarrel lights. It's a 3-day course. So a lot of officers were taking it on their days off, and so it took a lot of effort between our training unit and the firearms unit to get through it, but we are halfway through without a hitch so far, so we're really happy about that. And that's all I got, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Inspector West. Any questions for Inspector West? Seeing none, we will move on to Deputy Chief Saini.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have anything in regards to the report, but I just do want to thank Inspector West and Inspector Graham for their reports. And I just want to accentuate some of the positive work that our members have been doing in this previous month, obviously from the proactive initiatives in regards to the operational side, and then the follow-ups in regards to the alert, as well as our major crimes unit and their follow-ups in regards to some of the arrests that our members had made. It's just great work all around from both sections. That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Saying. With that, we move into new business. At the last meeting, we created a standing governance committee. Terms of reference were circulated. The motion to create was certainly gave direction within that committee to self-manage terms of reference, but the chair, Commissioner Thorson, wanted that circulated through the commission. So this would be your opportunity to ask any questions of Commissioner Thorson or suggest any changes or revisions. And if you haven't had a chance to review that, we'll give you a moment to do so. We're ahead of schedule, so take 2 minutes to get caught up on that. Any questions or suggestions on the terms room? Councillor Cluxton.
Sorry, I mean, obviously, Councillor Cox and I haven't been around for 4 years, so I'm just being brought up to speed. How long is the chief's contract for, and when does it renew, and does he intend to renew, if that's to be known?
Thank you for the question. So just recently, the chief's contract was redone. There were some changes in it that substantially required us to refer to it as renewed or reissued, and it currently goes to the end of 2031.
One of the most important jobs of a commission is hiring a chief, and so apparently we won't be doing that.
Any other comments or questions for Commissioner Thorson? Seeing none, it looks like you've got a green light to run with that, sir, so thank you very much for sharing. We have nobody in the gallery this evening, so there is no community consultation. The next open commission meeting is in chambers on January 21st. With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Thorson, thank you. Thanks to everybody who joined us online.